We are back again with more of our speakers over here at CTC and the Black Family Representation, Identity, and Diversity series. We have a very unique couple, and they are filming from their truck. Talk about working people that they're just on the side of the road. In the middle of what they're doing in a delivery. And so we are very, very grateful to have them today to stop their busy day to talk to us about their life story. I'd like to introduce Mr. and Mrs. This is Natasha and Gennaire Harris. Before I get started, though, remember, if you would like to register for this, go to the library website, go to events, and make sure you register. Well, without further ado, from the roadside, we've got Mr. Gennaire Harris and his wife, Natasha. Take it away, guys.
Hello, how you guys doing? All right, let's see. Well, this all came about. Wait. Hello? All right. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Okay.
We're here. I was on mute. We
All
can
right,
hear
there
you.
you go. All right. So this all started when I was 14, she was 13. And we met in my favorite restaurant today is McDonald's. And that's where we met at. And I happened to be going up there to go get um, a meal. And my mama gave me some money, and I really didn't have enough to get what I wanted. And I got in there, and the lady asked me, "What do you want?" You know, so I told her what I wanted. And when I was counting my money out, I was short, and I had to look over, and I seen her, and it was like something I've never seen before. You know, it was like, wow. You know, um, I like her. You know, and she smiled at me. I asked her her name, and then the lady told me how much it was. I didn't have enough, so she wound up giving me the rest of the money for what I was ordering. And we went on the side and we was talking, and she gave me her number, and I got my food, and I didn't have a pen, so I had to remember this number in my head all the way home, and I had to keep saying it over and over in my head, over and over and over in my head. And I got home, and then I called her, and then we talked, and that was how we wrote. She wrote, you know, we stayed together. We did almost everything together. You know, she was always at my house, or at her grandma's house. And um, one day I had, huh? Hold on, I'm girl. You have.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Harris. And so during this process, I was going to a Catholic school. So I had my Catholic school uniform on, and I used to
Oh,
get it made to be very, very short. Or the nuns would say, roll down your skirt. So I made sure that I bought one that was already short, that I did not have to roll up. So he was mesmerized by that Catholic school uniform. Yes, he was. And when I saw him, it was almost like love at first sight. I just was like, wow, I love him. And so, like he said, the relationship was like peanut butter and jelly. Wherever he was, I was wherever, vice versa. And then here he go. He's going to tell the rest of the story.
okay, so the rest of the story was I had a extra girlfriend, and she would always say when Tasha would come over, she said, "How come you make me leave?" I said, "Because my girlfriend's coming over, and you can't be here, and if you catch you here, she'll probably beat you up, you know." And one day she decided to go to the arcade that we always went to. Her uncles they worked there. And she went up there and she walked up to the pinball machine, and it was in Los Angeles. And she walked up to the pinball machine when she was playing, and she said, I heard that you're going with Gennaire. And at that moment, little Miss Tasha beat her up from the pinball machine all the way to the middle of Western Avenue and 54th Street. And when I finally got home, I told her, I said, why did you go do that? I told you she was going to beat you up.
Because you gotta keep touching it.
Get your picture back. Yeah.
Okay. So I keep forgetting I got to touch it. So that happened, and then we wind up breaking up. She never spoke to me again. And my brother had a son by her auntie, which we were together before them. And they just happened to meet some kind of way. And for all these years, we just never, I think we talked once. I think I got in trouble and I was about to go to prison. And I got in contact with her, and I was at a payphone. In those days, we didn't have cell phones like this. So I was talking to her, and she was like, well, yeah, I'll take you back, whatever. And the call ended because I didn't have no more dimes. And it ended. And I never talked to her again after that. So years, okay, I'm going to let her give you her perspective.
So then we also had a mutual friend. And so the mutual friend, I would go to over to his house, and me and other friends, we would go over to his house, and we would relax and chill out and have a lot of fun. And so one day he caught me over there, and he was like, what are you doing over here? And there was a lot of other guys there. So what happened was, during this process of our breakup, our mutual friend and him were at a store. And so when they were at the store, what happened was that it was some guys there at the store, and they began to try to protect an older man. It was an older guy there, African American male, there, that they were trying to protect. He and our mutual friend. So what happened is that they got into a fight with the guys that were at the store. So during that process, when the police came, they grabbed Gennaire. And so the guy that was our mutual friend had been stabbed by one of the dudes that they were fighting with at the store. So he was really stabbed, but the police was looking for him because they had Gennaire inside of the back of the police car, but they couldn't find the other person. So when a lady finally caught up with the other person, she pulled over and she pulled her gun on him and told him, put your hands up. So he couldn't, because he had been stabbed. So he went up like this, and then he grabbed his side again. So during that process, she shot him in his head. So he died. So Gennaire's in the back seat seeing our best friend, shot in the head during that process. And so when she had pulled over, Gennaire had got some type of way, he got out of the police car and was, trying to get away, running down the street. But when the police caught up with him, they beat him up really bad, put him back in the police car. And during that process, when they slammed his face on the concrete, that's how his tooth broke out. So his tooth broke out during that process. And when he went down to the police station, he said that his body touched every wall in that police station, from the sides, the ground, the roof, every area. And so when you talked about what goes on in Black families, I began to process, and I wanted to include that because this is what we live with. I'm from the Compton area, and he's from South Central. And so these are the things, this is a normal lifestyle for us. We never saw it as being something that was, we knew that it was wrong, but we never saw it as being abnormal. And so, and here you go, he's gonna add something to it.
So as time went on, I just lived life the way I see it fit. I just, whatever happened, happened. I wind up going to jail for it. And I got a total of 7 years. And of 7 years, I did about 5, only through 3.5 with halftime. And but as I was going for this time, I was like so upset because I wind up at one point I beat the case. Well, not beat it, but it was thrown out of court for lack of evidence. So it wound up getting brought back up again very quickly after, and and I wound up doing time for it. So while I'm going to court, everybody's in there. The guy comes in, the lady comes in, and she says, "Well, look, I can get you 7 years." And I'm like, 7 years? I can't do 7 years. So the rest of the guys in the tank sat there and said, "Wait, come here." He said, "They're going to give you 7 years." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, he's doing 63 to life. He's getting 25 to life. He's getting 72 to life." He said, "You need to get that 7 years and go." So, so I went, got to 7 years, and I winded up doing 5 years. And I was a complete mess up. I fought all the time. I got in fights, plus the other stuff that goes on in prison, that unspeakable stuff. So I was just, you know, I did what I had to do. I wound up getting out, and when I got out was around the LA riots had just taken place. And I got out and I seen all this stuff going on, and I was like, wow. And I was actually maybe down the street from where everything took place, where the riots actually took off at. And I wasn't even aware that none of this was going on. And I kept seeing people driving by talking about, oh, it's going down, it's going down. And when we looked around and looked, they was looting everywhere, taking any and everything that they could. Of course, I was in on it. I wanted to get my fair issue. So, so after that, I winded up getting on drugs real bad. Still living the street life and whatnot, and I wind up going to prison a number of times. And this last time, I wind up getting 25 to life for something that was just really minute, driving without the owner's consent. So, because of the three-strike law, and California is notorious for the three-strike law. They will lock you up. They say life, they mean life. And as time went on, I was just in prison and just, at one point I just said, you know what? I just have to deal with what I have to deal with. I have to deal with what I have to deal with here and just do what I have to do. And one day I got this letter came in, and this letter came in and says, Lady goes, I need you to contact me. I can possibly get you out of prison. After having two paid lawyers who did nothing, and they couldn't change it. The judge wasn't trying to overturn it, you know. And my cellie at the time argued me down. Send the paperwork in. You don't know what happened. I said, man, look, people are not going to play with me like that. And I said I wasn't doing it. So finally, he just said, well, look, give me the paperwork. I said, the paperwork right there in the corner. Get everything you're going to get. Anything you need to know about my case is right there. So he winded up sending the paperwork in. And as time went by, she wrote a few letters. We're doing this, we're doing that. I just take them, put them back in the envelope, and throw them over there with the rest of the legal mail. So one day, my counselor comes and calls me from work, and he says, hey, I have to come over here. So I go over there. I said, what's up? He said, I'm doing your parole plans. I said, your parole plans? I said, okay, whatever, what are we doing? So he asked me all these questions, where I'm going to stay at, where I'm going to be doing, what type of job I'm going to be working and whatnot. And I tell him everything. And then he said, okay, you done. I walk out, and I walk out. I turn back around. I said, well, look, let me ask you a question. I said, what? I say, what am I getting out? Is it going to be like maybe a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, or what? He sat there. He looked at his watch. He said, Harris, today is Thursday. Monday morning, you be out of here. I said, Monday morning? I couldn't believe it. And I didn't know what to do, what to say. I know I can't tell nobody about it too much because in prison you just don't tell people when you're going home. You know, you'll wind up with more time than what you really expected. You know, and I went. I told my cellie, and he was like, "Wow." He said, "That's crazy." He said, "Man, do what you do. Go home." So I didn't tell anybody. It's Sunday, but Monday morning, I had everything packed up that I was giving everybody that I didn't need or whatnot. And I got up that morning. I got up. They came and got me, and I went and I put everything in front of everybody's doors that I was giving away, and I went to R&R. So the Goon Squad is these people that they the ones who come search your cell and tear it up and do investigations on people. And they came up and they said, "How are you getting out?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You had 25 to life." He said, 2 weeks ago, you just got caught with 2 cell phones. He said, "That's 90 days apiece." He said, 2 months ago, you got caught with another cell phone. He said, "How'd you get out?" I said, "Well, you got to understand the law. When they commute your system, you commute your sentence, I was sentenced to what I was supposed to be sentenced to, which was a year to 6 months county jail or prison, if not a $5,000 fine. So whatever I just done in the past, that's minute. You won't even see me. You know, I said, so it's over with. They sat there, they shook my hand and let me out. And believe it or not, I still parole with a cell phone in my hand. So during the 15 years, you know, I've always had these fascinated ideas about starting companies and having companies and doing certain things. And a friend of mine was telling me, he said, well, look, if you want a company, it has to be something that's going to be, it has to have a nice sound to it. And it has to be something that somebody wants to know what they do, you know. And I was sitting there watching TV and I happened to see AT&T came on. It was at AT&T. I sat there. I said, And everybody at this time called me YG. And I said, YG, YG. I said, company, build a company around the words YG. And I said, okay, YG Incorporated. So my slogan was don't ask why, just ask YG. And for years, it was something that was just in my head that I wanted to do, you know. And when I got out, a friend of mine who now lives in Vegas, we call him Six Mac, and he does designing. So he designed the T-shirt that I have on, YG Incorporated, and I put it on paper, and I just all these years I just had it, you know, and it became a reality, you know, and really my wife made it a reality, you know, because she secretly went and I'm not answering that. She secretly went and did the LLC, and it's fine. And I didn't even know she did it. And then she showed me. She said, "Look," and she showed me. I looked. I said, "It's an LLC." She said, "It's the LLC." So it's YGNG Incorporated. Um, we do it's achieve your greatest goals is what it means. Achieve your greatest goals, and this is one of the goals, one of my greatest goals that. So it's one of the goals that I've achieved. One of my greatest goals, you know, thanks to my wife. And so I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna back up. I gotta back up because we left a very important part out. So one day, another mutual friend of ours that we grew up with, the one who also got killed, um, his name is Michael. And one day he was talking to her on the phone, and they was talking, and this was just last year. And He was talking to her and he said, if Gennaire knew that I was talking to you, he would stop everything he doing and come to you. Okay, now.
So during this process, during this time, and
We can't hear you.
kind of listen really good. Well, he would always tell me, we were together 3 years before we actually broke up, but he would always tell me, you're going to be my wife. So he would always say that to me all the time, every day. And he would always tell me how much he loved me during this time before we actually broke up. And so he was my first everything, my first love, my first everything. And so during that time where our mutual best friend was murdered, we actually lost contact after that. So now during that time frame, over the years after I had last heard from him, we all thought he was dead. No one knew that he was in jail. His brother, who had a baby by my auntie, he didn't know where he was at. We couldn't find him. We looked for him everywhere. We looked for him. So his brother thought that he was dead. So when our mutual friend came in contact with me, because he also went out with my best friend, and so they had got back in contact with each other. Her name was Dina. Dina said, hey, Michael's looking for you, because he said he wants you, Gennaire wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Gennaire's dead. He's not alive. How could that be? And so I talked to Michael, and so Michael called Gennaire while I was on the phone. And what happened was that Gennaire was talking to his dog the whole time I was on the phone with him. And I said, wait a minute, that just can't happen. I said, because he took something from me and I need it back. And so so what happened was that I called the next day. When I called the next day, we were talking for hours, just like we used to do when we were younger. We would talk on the phone till it was morning for hours on the phone. Our parents would be so mad. And then I'll let him tell this little part right here as how it came to the point where we are.
So we're talking on the phone. And mind you, I'm already in another relationship. And she tells me, oh, well, I'm getting married. I said, you getting married to who? And she's telling me the guy's name. And I say, you're not marrying him. She said, why not? I said, we're getting married. I said, oh, you a promise. And she said, what promise is that? I said, I told you. We said, oh, I was always we're going to get married. And she goes, okay. And she says, well, what about the girl that you with now? I said, I'm leaving. And it was just a situation where I was with someone. It was more of an opportunity for both of us than a relationship. I didn't love her like that. I wasn't in love with her. I loved her as a person. I would never let nobody mess with her or do nothing to her. But I just wasn't in love with this person, you know. And I was just used to being in relationships to where I've done what I wanted, you know. They make me mad, I leave, go somewhere else, gone, leave from there, and so on, you know. So I told her that she asked why I come to Texas. And I said, well, I guess I'm gonna have to. So I was working at FedEx in California, and I went transfer my put a transfer in, transfer from California to Texas, and I think that first week she seen me get paid. I think I blew through all my money because I said I was gonna save money, and then I was gonna come, right? So she seen me blow through my check just on bills, and she went, mm-mm. She said, no, I'm coming down. Now, mind you, I'm scared to death of planes. So she flew down there, and when she flew down there, she flew down. I think this was the July 9th. She landed in LA from Texas, and I'm fidgety all day trying to figure out what I'm going to take, what I'm not going to take, and then the woman that I'm with at the moment is like a drama queen. So my place sister who lived next door to me was like, well, you need to tell her and let her know what's going on. I said, no, I'm not. I said, because I know what's happening, you know. And she was like, but why? I trust her. I said, she's going to start hyperventilating. She's going to wind up going to the hospital. And she knows that I'm not going to leave the son there alone. So I just didn't say anything. So Tasha calls me and says, I'm here. She says, but I can't get her on a call because of her ID. She lost her ID, had a paper ID. And I say, don't worry about it. I'm on my way. And she said, no, you don't have to come. I said, no, that in my place, I wanted to get $20. And I think I did 110 driving from San Bernardino to LA. And I pulled up at the hotel she was staying at. And I walked up the stairs. And I forgot what room we was. And I didn't even have to worry about that. When I was walking, I could hear her talking. And I went back and knocked on the door and she opened the door up. And I just grabbed her and started hugging. And I just started crying. All these years, it was like I was really trying to find something in other women that I had to learn. I just could never find it. And it was as if God gave me a lesson in my life. Lesson for me. And I can see that now because, you know, last year this time, I wasn't even thinking about buying a, you know, and it's like everything, like, together, like, you know. Now I'm gonna let you talk to her.
So during this process time, when we were broke when we were not together, um, in my life, everything went downhill as same as his. So it seems as if I was always having conflict with adults. You know, it was always a problem. You know, either something was going on or something that wasn't supposed to be going on was going on during that time frame as he and I was broken up. I ended up going to Humboldt State University. I ended up majoring in social work and getting my bachelor's in social work. And so during that time, by during that time frame, it was either I can continue to be a problem to society or I can make society better. So I decided to major in social work to actually originally to become a probation officer. But ended up happening is that I ended up, you know, uh, getting married, having children, ended up having a desire for teenagers, you know, because it seems like I never was heard as a teenager. So I wanted to be a voice and I wanted to be ears for teenagers to be able to come to me and be able to hear me. So I have a program called Opportunity to Make Choices. And the program gives teens an opportunity to make a better choice after making several bad choices. I made a lot of bad choices growing up as a kid, and very angry, very hurt. My stepdad killed himself when I was 13 in our home. And so I had a very, very rough lifestyle. And so I would take it out on people on the streets because who else can I take the anger out on? I couldn't do it with my family. And so I was this lady who was a nun at the school that I was going to at the time. She used to pray all the time, and she used to always say, well, if you're angry, just speak it into this rock and then lay it down at the cross. And so I had my last nightmare about my stepdad killing himself when I spoke it into the rock and I laid it down at the cross. And it seemed like God gave me like a complete release, you know, of the forgiveness to where I began to forgive. And so one thing about forgiveness will actually cause you to make bad choices. It'll actually cause you to be very angry, and it can make you sick. And so the forgiveness, we always think that is for other people, but it's actually for you. And so that's how opportunity to make choices is teaching young women how to live in a family. This is a family, and we make mistakes. Families don't always have it all together. So it's giving them that opportunity to be in a family to where they can make the mistakes and they don't have to move. A lot of the kids, they've been in foster care and going from place to place. I mean, I had a girl one time in my home. She had been in care. She had been in 19 different homes, and she's 23 now, and she's gone nowhere, but she's still with me, and I'm still helping her achieve her goals. And so achieve your greatest goal and opportunity to make choices pretty much kind of works together, because we're still helping youth achieve their goal. Taking a little bit for a minute. Okay, here he goes again. Okay.
So as time went on, then I had to say this, and it was before we got back together. I was at a friend's house. We're not a friend. I was taking somebody somewhere to drop them off, and this guy I met, he just looked so familiar. Like, you know how you see somebody and it seems like you've been knowing them forever, but you just can't really pinpoint where you know them from. So I said, man, you look familiar, man. He said, I know you do too. And he asked me, he said, hey, he says, Sunday, would you mind going to church? And I was like, okay. And I'm not really a church going person. I believe in God, but I'm just not really into going to church and none of that. And I told him I'd go, and it happened to be in San Bernardino I lived at. And I went, it's called The Way. And I went there. There's a pastor named Pastor Marcos. And one Sunday I was there, and he was preaching. And, at the end of his ceremony, he comes off with this big thing. And he said, if you're tired of living the way you're living, and you need to change your life, and as people raise your hand. And out of nowhere, I raised my hand. And he said, keep them raised. Another big raising. Okay. And you come up here. Now in my mind, I'm going, people see me raise my hand. If I go up there or not. Because I was like embarrassed somebody seen me. And I went. The same pastor walked over and he put his hands on me and said, I know you've been having a hard time. I know life is not fair. I know you've been through a lot of ups and downs. He said, but today will be the day that everything will change. And all good things will happen. And I left church, went home. Days later, I was like in the job. And I was in the job. After I didn't have no friend of mine called me up and said, you go to work. I said, well, yeah. I said, okay, I want you to meet me Saturday. So I go up to the address, Covina, and said, see that building there? I was going to the other guy shot. So I go in, started his job, who I know. It's okay, good. So I work, I watched the video, and, get everything did. And I did it. 2 days later, I was working for Ready Pack. Ready Pack is one of the leading salad distribution that does like the packets with the meat and salad and whatnot. And I started working. So about a week later, I was going to work. A or maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, and the engine on my car just no oil was for a ride. And I called my friend, Mexican guy that live out there, the shop with his cars and sells cars. And I said, Neto, I need a car to get to work. He said, I don't worry. He goes and he's this Honda, calls me over. And he said, look, and it has this big dent, both doors, the right door, pushed in. I said, my car is working. No. I said, I have more tickets to work. He said, no, don't worry about it. He said, can you go to work and stay with somebody? So I had a friend that worked with me, stayed right down the street who worked at. And I stayed there for a week. I came back there Friday. After I got paid, I came back there Friday. And when I seen the car was totally different. He fixed the discs, changed the doors, painted the car. It was beautiful. I went, wow, how did you do this in 1 week? So there was another car that he had, BMW, and it was a 325i. And growing up, I couldn't stand it. And he had this guy working for him who detailed cars. And I always told him, I said, that dude does not know how to detail cars. I said, let me detail this car. He says, okay, give me the car. I detail it. I brought it back to him. When I brought it back to him, he said, yeah. He said, that can't be the same car. I said, it's the same car. But when I drove that car, it was, I fell in love with it. So the Honda wound up getting hit by somebody where I lived at. And they wound up paying for it. And he said, well, what do you want to do with this car now? I don't want it no more. He said, why? I said, because they hit it. I don't want it. He goes, okay, what car you want? I said, I want that BMW. He said, okay, give me the Honda back. You had a BMW. And you can pay me the money. Pay me the money that you've been.
Sir, let me stop you a second. You may have your hand, you may have your hand on the speaker, because when Gennaire, when you talk, it's muffled. So we
I
only
barely
heard
hear you.
half. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear
barely,
me?
but it's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. No, he had his hand over the speaker and we could barely hear him. Also, Miss Harris, before, because we're going to be running out of time in a little bit, could you make sure that you also tell us about your organization? We want to make sure that information gets in there as well. So,
Yes, achieve your greatest goal um is a mobile car detailing. And it
uh-huh.
also is a business that also does, it also speaks to youth who are offenders or ex-offenders, and
Oh,
adults who are offenders or ex-offenders. Motivational speaking, helping them get goal setting and helping them to achieve their greatest goal. Opportunity to Make Choices is a program that helps children who age out of foster care and helps them bridge them into society. It bridges them from being in care into society. And so, and it's nonprofit. You Achieve Your Greatest Goal, which is YGNG, is for profit. And so those are the two businesses. Um, the email for Opportunity to Make Choices is opportunitytomakechoices@gmail.com. And the email for YGNG is YGNG INC one at gmail.com.
and
So we can receive
yes, we'll put
email
it
from people through there.
we'll put it in the comments. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, we couldn't hear him very clearly because he must have had his hand on the phone. But yeah, just keep going. And, we've got about 5 more minutes to go ahead,
We can
and
barely hear you.
we've got about 5 more minutes. Um, got about 5 more minutes. So your story is
So
amazing. So keep going.
that was pretty much it to end it all. basically I've been single for 20 years. You know, so nothing worked. I had been married twice. But they would, and then I dated, you know, after him when we were younger, and they will always say, you know, I love you, but you don't seem like you love me. And they will always say, it seems like there's something there. And so and pretty much it probably really was something there. So I don't know if I believe that you can only fall in love once, but I believe that I only fell in love once.
Well, this has been an amazing, the very fact that your story, you know, that you were so young when you first met. And this has basically been a love story through so much struggle. And even coming where you came from, even where Mr. Harris came from, you managed to have businesses, you managed to give hope to other people, in spite of the struggles that you had, which is so inspiring. Um, and I know this has been, I could hear Mr. Harris in the background. This has been very rough and very, very raw for him to bring up his, you know, what is going on, and very hard. But the honesty that you both have exhibited today, and the raw truth of your life and the struggles that you had, are so inspiring to our community, that you just continue to go. You don't ever give up. And here's this love story, this family of the both of you together, um, exhibited here is phenomenal. So, did you have any other last words that you wanted to say to all of our viewers? And Lee, were there any questions?
I could say, you said, what, did anybody have any questions? Did you say
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I was going to ask Lee
There's
first.
no questions at this time.
Okay, so did you want to end, you know, end with some words for our community?
Mm. I think the thing that I can end with is that no matter how hard your struggle is, no matter whether some people think that they don't have life unless they have a struggle. So even if you don't have a struggle, you still have life, and you still have life to give to someone else. So I think the most important thing that I've learned throughout this whole process on how important forgiveness is. Forgive, when you don't forgive, it can change the course of your life. So it's very important to forgive, not just it's we're thinking that by letting go, they're getting away with it. But in actuality, you bind yourself up when you don't forgive. So that's what I've learned throughout the whole thing of my, that's what I close with. Did you want to say anything to close
Yeah,
with?
Mr. Harris, you want to say a few words to close?
You gotta speak up too.
My closing thing would be: don't ask why, just ask why too.
He's selling it. He is selling
He's a
it.
comedian.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, you have given us a total glimpse of your life, of your struggles, of the fact that you know, you could go and be, you know, have a story, be put in prison. It's like, that's not going to stop me. He's was in prison. That's not going to stop me. Nothing's stopping you two. And I just am very, very encouraged by the life and the fact that you guys, even with these massive, massive struggles, you continue on. Miss Harris, I see your wonderful smile on your face. I see Mr. Harris's smile on his face. You've not let some, I mean, the very fact that we started this conversation today in a truck shows that you're going to do it. And we really, truly, our college thanks you, our community thanks you for your honesty, your life stories. This is what this is all about, just getting glimpses into people's lives. And you both have shown us your very real life, and that you can just keep going. And here you're both working to help everybody else. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking time out in your truck and in your very, very busy business to visit with us today. Um, Thank you again. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Lee take us out, but don't leave quite yet. Okay.
Um,
So
Thank you
thank
for
you,
having us
everybody.
on here too.
Thank you. And Lee, and everybody remember we have 2 more stories, one tomorrow at noon and one tomorrow at 1. So we hope to see you then as well. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the beautiful, beautiful weather. Look at you two. Look how pretty. All right. Well,
Bye.
Lee, wait, don't hang up quite yet.